The writing process initially may sound like it's more work, but boy, are you ever wrong. So do not delay in implementing this process, because it will make your writing so much faster, so much less stress, such a higher quality result, output, and you'll actually learn something every time you follow it. You'll be a little smarter, and writing will be a little easier for you. You may not believe that at first, but after you experience it, you'll discover it really is. And how do I know this? I know this because dozens of students tell me this all the time. I try and reinforce and get them to follow the process every time, and at some point in the semester, some student will actually do it, and they'll be all surprised. They'll be like, oh my gosh, it worked, you were right. Yeah, okay, I'm right. All my students who told me that are right, so do it, all right? There are different ways you can chop up the tasks of the writing process. I've identified 5 steps that I think are important. The first one is pre-writing. So this is stuff you do before you even start writing your paper. Honestly, if you try and write a paper and you don't even know what's going into it yet, you know, that's like such a major shortcut. That's so lazy. That is so lame. If you're writing your paper the night before it's due, you deserve to get a D if you're pretty smart. Okay, don't do that. It's like going on vacation, right? You're going to drive to the beach and have this awesome time, and you get halfway there and you realize you didn't bring your swimming suit and your suntan lotion and stuff. You can buy more there, but if you would have done a little planning, it would have worked better. Okay, so pre-writing includes think of the research process, okay? Come up with a research question. What do you want to write about? Read your general reference material. Do some research. Gather your material, okay? Think of it like building a house. You can start digging a foundation, but why not go pick up your cement and your studs and your plans and your electrical and have everything there ready to put together, okay? So pre-writing can also include brainstorming, and this can really be done at any stage, right? Coming up with ideas, narrowing down ideas, you know, developing one point or another. You can brainstorm all the time. You can also cluster, where you do that little spider web diagram of ideas to help come up, you know, generate more ideas, you know, clarify what your focus is. You can free write, invented in like 1971 or something by Peter Elbow, where basically the idea is, well, he'd say you put your pencil down, but I'm going to say stick your finger on the keyboard and just start typing about your idea, and just don't stop typing. This is great for writer's block. Writer's block usually happens because you're trying to produce ideas at the same time you're trying to evaluate them. And evaluating them really gets in the way of producing them. You think of an idea and you're like, oh, that's stupid, before you even give it a chance. So write it out, before, you know, and then come back later and decide what you want to keep. By the way, you don't even need to turn on your computer for this. I mean, if you want to save it, you know, and then look through for your ideas, that's great. But if you just having your fingers on the keyboard, or an imaginary keyboard if you're sitting on a bus, you don't have your notebook, having something physical can keep you focused, keep your mind from wandering, and keep you moving. Okay, so once you start generating some ideas, then you tend to break through the writer's block, and eventually either flows, or at least you have a better idea of what to start with. So that's part of what's involved in pre-writing. There are many other options you can do, and that's step 1. Step 2 is drafting. This is where you actually write out your paper, write your first draft. Oh, I should mention one other very, very, very important part. Can't stress how very, very important this is in pre-writing. Organize your thoughts, okay? Figure out a structure that your ideas will go in. Otherwise, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to repeat the same idea in multiple spots and kind of weave back and forth. And to your professors, who hopefully are professional readers of this, they're going to see you didn't have a structure, and hopefully whether they're English professors or not, hopefully they care about quality writing. It's very important across the whole curriculum. And if they see you have not organized it, that is what I call one of the 2 most basic, crucial, essential elements of university writing. If you can't organize your ideas, they're not going to be as effective. Okay? So organize your ideas. By the way, it also makes it so much easier for you to write by a factor of 1,000, or at least 10. because you know where you're going, and if you get some idea, you can go write about that for a second and come back and not be lost. And how about the page limit thing, right? If your professors have page limits, page requirements, and you're worried about being able to write enough, having a structure and organization planned out solves that. Because all you need to do, if it's too short, all you need to do is say, which one of these ideas should I expand, okay? If you don't have an organization, you oftentimes can't do that, because you expand one idea and all of a sudden the way it kind of connected into the next idea doesn't, you break that apart. But if you have a good logical, structure, you can do that and it doesn't ruin it, doesn't mess the whole thing up. Okay? If you need less, you can collapse it, you can think of, say, oh, I'm going to add one more thing to my outline, expand it. So having a clear organization will solve 90% of the problems, in my experience, teaching thousands of students for all these years, of problems that a lot of students face otherwise. Okay, so do it. Don't be stupid. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your professor's time by not planning an organization for your paper. Okay, drafting. If you have an organization, you just write it out. Just turn your little bullet points or whatever into full sentences and paragraphs, and then you've got a draft. Okay, congratulations, that's awesome. A lot of you would think you're done at this point, and if you've done a really good job pre-writing, maybe you are. That would be awesome. But the third step is very helpful. It's called incubation. You've heard that term. That's what chickens do, right? They sit on eggs and eggs incubate and they grow, right? While the chicken's just sitting there. Well, the same thing goes for you. If you've done your pre-writing, you can go see a movie or play your video game or go skiing or whatever it is you do, right? Because you've loaded up your brain with all this information, and now as you play or do whatever, your brain's still working, putting those things together, okay? So you can incubate at any point after you get started. You can't incubate before you get started. It doesn't do any good, right? And it's just worry. If you've drafted a paper, let it sit a day or two and then go back and read it again, and you'll have fresh eyes and you'll spot things, sometimes glaring errors or things you want to change that you didn't see the first time, because when it's fresh, you just typed it out, your brain fixes all those problems, right? You don't notice. So give it some time, look at it again, and you can fix it up a lot. The fourth step is revision. And if you've done really good pre-writing, you don't have to do a lot of revision. If you haven't, you might be changing the organization around, right? Copy something from somewhere, paste it somewhere else, and maybe you'll realize this whole big idea you spent hours writing up a few paragraphs doesn't even fit your paper anymore, okay? Well, if it doesn't fit your paper, if it does not advance the purpose of whatever you're trying to accomplish, it does not belong in your paper, and you're going to have to take it out. I'm sorry. It's hard when you put all that blood, sweat, and tears, but you should have done your pre-writing better. But if you do that, it can make it a little bit less painful. Cut it out, Control X, right? Paste it somewhere else, another document or the end of your document, and save it in case you want to come back and use it later. It's a little bit less painful. You might do, so you can do massive revision like that, removing things, relocating them, reorganizing, or you can do minor revision where you just go in and make some ideas a little more complete, add a little more evidence for some point you made, or just some small things, adding a little more description or adding some rhythm, some sentence variety to your paper, that kind of stuff. That's all revision. And then that brings us to the fifth and final step, which is editing. And editing is just going through and just cleaning up, okay, just touching up. So catch your typos. If you have problems with words like there, and there, to, and to, effect, then, than, your, it's, go through and just do a search on each one of those words and check and make sure you've got the right spelling for one of those, okay? In my book, editing and typos and stuff is really the least important aspect of writing. It comes far later than the quality of your ideas, for example. But it's still very important, because a lot of readers, if they see typos and errors in there, it'll can really decrease your ethos, your credibility. They will assume either that you're uneducated or stupid, which may not be the case. You don't have to be smart to be a good speller, right? Or just sloppy, and that can, any one of those can reduce the credibility of your paper. So it's important to go ahead and clean those up and get it right. So that's your introduction to the writing process. Do it soon. Try it even on small papers, because the last benefit of following the writing process is that it formats your brain to think in a more organized fashion. You think about what you're doing. You think it's easier to think about how your audience will respond, making good arguments. And if you pay attention to those things as you write, then it gets written into your brain. Okay? Someone just telling it to you once and you saying, "Oh, I understand," that's not good enough. You have to apply it to create enough neural pathways that's going to stick and do you some good. It takes a little bit of time, but it saves you so much more time and stress, gets you a better grade, a better product, everything you want. So don't wait to apply this. Make it a habit and always follow the process. If you don't, if you just do a little bit of research and then just write something about it the day before, that's busy work, okay? And it's not the teacher's fault anymore. If you start getting mad like, "Oh, they just give me all this busy work," it's because you didn't apply yourself. You're here in college to learn. This is how you do it.